Hello everyone! So I'm back in Seoul, in my apartment. And I just wanted to have a little chat about my time in Japan because I had so many thoughts and feelings while I was there. So let's jump in. So the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about was nostalgia. I landed in Japan this past week and the overwhelming feeling of nostalgia, or in Japanese they call it natsukashi, was just insane. As some of you may know, my first ever study abroad experience was in Japan. It was in Chiba Prefecture, which is up closer to Tokyo. I studied at Kanda Gaiko Daigaku for 1 semester with IES, and it literally changed my life. I don't want to be dramatic, but it did. It was in Japan while I was with my host mom that I realized I wanted to be a pastry chef and that I was gonna finish college and fully try to be a chef before I went on to do anything else. And it took a little bit more time to actually make that happen, but anyway, it was in Japan. And before, my life is before Japan and after Japan, because I was so shy. I had an illness growing up, and I thought of myself as a person who was just academic, who didn't really have a lot of friends, who didn't really need a lot of friends. I could do anything by myself, for myself, and that was fine. And I got to Japan and I made friends. I dated someone for the first time, and I felt totally independent and adult. And I know I was 21. Was I really an adult? No. It was just amazing. And I met this group of girls that I still talk with on a regular basis. They're still a huge part of my life. And I didn't realize a person could have friends like that, and that you would want to spend all your time with them. And so that just fundamentally changed me and how I approached the rest of my life since then. And I absolutely fell in love with Japan. And so that was huge for me to go back. And as I was just walking down the street doing super mundane things, I did touristy things, but I was doing all of these mundane things, and everything was triggering memories, good memories, but it was insane how many emotions I was feeling just walking down the street. So that was an experience I didn't really prepare myself for prior to going to Kyoto. Even though I had really wanted to go back to Japan, I loved Japan, I knew that, it was still kind of a shock and a lot to deal with, especially that first night. And then besides my own emotional memory, nostalgia going on, there was a lot of stuff that I was noticing that I just wanted to point out because I don't really think it came through in the videos I was taking or on my Instagram or anywhere like that. But I've gotten pretty used to the fashion in Seoul, right? I live down in Naksongdae, which is near Seoul University, and I go to pastry shops and I adventure all the time. So I'm constantly going to the Gangnam area, to Itaewon, to Hapjeong, Hongdae, I'm everywhere in Seoul. So I've observed a lot of the fashion, a lot of people, a lot of different walks of life. And in Seoul, you have so many people wearing basically the same thing. And as the seasons change, changes become really obvious because it's the same day. It's oh, it's time to wear our tan trench coats now. And then it was it's too cold, we're wearing our padding, the full-on black coat, but it's the same color, it's the same fit, it's you wear that thing. And I think in Seoul, fashion changes all the time, but then everybody changes that. And I went to Kyoto and I remembered what I had experienced before when I was in Japan, which is like, I can see an outfit, I can see a person and be like, yep, Japanese. Like that outfit, that way of dressing, it's quintessentially Japanese. But also, it's this like very timeless fashion. Of course there are new things and, you know, fashion changes, but I think like this idea of what fashion is in Japan is quite timeless. And then within that thing that is Japanese fashion, then individuals can be very unique and still be Japanese. You know, like that's still Japanese fashion, but there's a little bit more of a difference. So I'm walking down the street and all these girls, all these women especially, are dressed in very individualistic seeming ways, but at the same time, if I'm looking at it, it's like, it's all Japanese fashion, right? So that was huge to me because I'm not I'm not really on the level of Seoul fashion, and I've never gotten on the level of Japan either. So it was, you know, definitely an outside observation from that point. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about that felt like a huge difference coming from Korea was the price. Like, oh my god, you guys. I feel so spoiled to be living in Seoul right now because things are just like not expensive. I can take the bus, I can take the subway across Seoul, and it's gonna be like $1. If I go the whole way across, like when I go from my place down in the south up to like my friend's cafe in the north, they might add 15 cents because I've taken the subway for an hour, right? An hour, they add 15 more cents. But in Japan, in Kyoto, wherever, I took the bus and it was like $2.50, even if you're going one stop. In the bus, at least it's like if you're going one stop or 20 stops, it's $2.50. So when I went across Kyoto, it was fine. But then the subway, you go one stop, it's this much, you go two stops, it's this much, and that adds up so quickly. Oh my god, I could have spent so much money on transportation. So what I did to combat that was I literally walked everywhere. So the day bus pass or the day transportation pass, it's like 24 hours, is like $6 or $7, I think. And that's great if you are going to be taking that. But I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm gonna be in Kyoto for 5 days. And I really, like, maybe, but I don't really want to spend like $35 on transportation. I want to spend that on coffee. I want to spend that on dessert. I want to spend that on omiyage. So I walked and walked and walked and walked, and it's a super walkable city. So like it was easy, but I only packed heeled boots because I was attempting to be fashionable. I'm not sure if I pulled it off. I was attempting to be fashionable, so my feet hurt a little bit. By the end of the week, I like literally came back to Seoul and just like face planted on my bed, like in one entire day. But anyway, things are expensive, and even food. Especially living around a university, there are so many restaurants, cheap, decent food. I could buy a meal, whole meal, like $4 or $5. And in Japan, like you can probably find some good ramen for like $6. But a lot of things are gonna be more like, your lower price things are gonna be 10. I feel like, at least when I was in Kyoto. So it was just a little bit of that culture shock. I think had I just gone from America to Kyoto, I wouldn't notice it as much, because in the US I take my car, when I eat out, like it is more expensive, blah blah blah. But coming from Seoul, it was like how much do you want me to spend? So that was an experience. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was just like, I miss Japan, like so much. I really, really miss it. And one of the things I struggled with while I was there was because I realized how much I missed Japan and I had all this nostalgia and I was reflecting back on all of these like really, really, really positive times in my life and how much Japan has influenced my life, I had several moments of doubt, like very extreme doubt, like why am I not trying to live here? Why am I not trying to move to Japan right now or next year or in the future? And I was having kind of a hard time with that because I do love speaking Japanese as well. And I was with an Airbnb host who treated me like family, and she and I spoke a lot, primarily in Japanese, and had a lot of really great conversations. And it reminded me that I still remember my Japanese, even though I thought that I lost a lot of it. I was fine. I communicated everything I needed to when I was out and about, with her, with the chefs when I went out to eat. Like, it was fine, and I loved it, and I miss studying that language. But also in speaking with my host and my Airbnb, she's such a traveler, right? She's hosted these students from all over the world. Now she's doing Airbnb, and she's continued throughout this whole time throughout her life to travel all over the world. And sometimes when she would say something or introduce a story, it was like, oh, well, the first time I was here, or like the third time, or the fourth time. And I was like, oh yeah, I can always come back to Japan. Like, I feel old sometimes. Like, sometimes I feel really old, especially because in Korea they count years differently. So I'm 28 here, even though I'm 27. And, which I know is not old. But anyway, excuse my life crisis. But I'm 27. I have so many years left in my life to visit Japan. And I have so many friends there and so many excuses in the future, be it weddings or travel or, whatever, to go back. And so after I talked with my Airbnb host, I felt like really relieved. Like, I don't have to move back to be able to go back all the time. Not all the time, because it's very expensive, as I said. But like right now, flights from Seoul to Osaka are $150 round trip. So it's generally quite affordable for where I am now. So I'm hoping to go back very soon. But anyway, it was a fantastic trip. I really, really enjoyed myself. I wish sometimes I had been there with a friend, but also because I had so many like reflections going on, I was really happy to just be wandering around totally in my head. I didn't listen to like any music or podcasts or anything while I was wandering. It was just me, me thinking my thoughts. So it was great. I'm hoping to go back maybe in the spring. But anyway, I was exhausted. Like, my brain was exhausted, my body was exhausted, so I'm really happy I went for only 5 days, even though part of me wish I would have just gone for like the whole 3 weeks of my vacation. So thank you so much for listening to my ramblings about my time in Japan. If you have any other questions or any other thoughts about my travels there, anything you want to know, things that I noticed or didn't notice, please leave any comments and questions down below. I would love to answer anything you have. So again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe so you can see all of my future adventures. I have a ton of really fun things planned. And we're approaching Christmas in Korea, less than a month away. So we're entering this very wintry, festive season, and there are so many fun places I want to take you along with me, so make sure to stay tuned for all of those adventures. See you next time.